recording.
All right, we are live.
All righty. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Green Pack.
Capacity.
Is volume good?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew.
And this is John.
Well, Dad's back for another, on my end this time, for another action-packed, well-prepared-for podcast. We're all raring to go here. Got so many ideas just flying out of our heads. So welcome, everyone, for another round of YouTube goodness. Occasional downloads.
No, it's all streaming. Nobody downloads any.
I gotta up my data over here. Too much Netflix and streaming.
Oh, you too? Okay.
Yeah, well, I got 1 terabyte. And I can
Yeah, that's what we had.
I can go up to unlimited
We went up to 2 terabytes, and that's been pretty much done well for us.
It's an extra $50 a month to do that. I'm trying to figure out what to knock out, or I just give up on TV altogether.
For us, it's mostly just like if I downloaded a game.
Yeah.
Like some of those games can be like 20 to 50 gigs.
Oh yeah. That's pretty massive. I don't know how we got up to a terabyte, but our data was good for a long time, and then all of a sudden it just shot up. I don't think it's podcasting.
No.
I watch a lot of instructional videos and stuff like that on YouTube. Grayson watches a lot of stuff.
I don't know. They give a breakdown. Like it really takes thousands of hours to equal like a terabyte of data.
Yeah. Did you get some new headphones?
Yep.
What'd you get?
Keep one from.
Oh. Cool. Koss ear clips.
But I saw Ready Player One this week or last week.
What'd you think of that?
It's a fun movie.
Spielberg movie?
Yeah. But I don't know, are you ever aware of the book or read the book?
I heard about it. I never really read it. I mean, I know it's about some dystopia in the future where everyone lives in this kind of virtual fantasy world.
Yeah.
And then someone's going after all the money that the guy made that invented it, like it's a treasure hunt.
Yeah, it's basically Willy Wonka, but for like a virtual reality.
And it's kind of an homage to 80s pop culture.
It's more than that. It's a fucking
If you like your books
nostalgia
to have
nerdgasm.
an entire glossary at the end of every page about what 80s reference it's referring to and where it's from, that's the book for you.
It's kind of an insufferable book, but there are decent things about it. Like it's a good young adult novel.
Yeah.
But like, there's also this weird stuff where it's like this nostalgia is meant for adults. So this is weird. Like this thing's written for kids, but it's purely like, it's like this guy just grew up and was like, well, what if all the shit I wasted my life on during my childhood was like important? He wrote a book around that.
It's like, because I know there's like a whole part of it where he has to say all the Matthew Broderick lines from War Games.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the Back to the Future car, and there's all kinds of stuff I've heard about.
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about this book over the years, but
yeah, because I always gets because all the stuff I buy gets like recommended to me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like I've heard like because there's like it has a lot of good reviews and stuff like that, but when you listen to people talk about it, it's always like 50-50. It's like, oh yeah, that book was all right, and it's like, that book is terrible, that's pure trash. And it's like so it seemed weird to like the amount of positive reviews that are just kind of out there public, and then the amount of how much it gets trashed on by like just normal people. It's like, so is this thing good or not, or is it just a good PR push to it? But it's kind of in between. Yeah, it's so yeah, the movie just makes it more fun, less insufferable. They don't do exactly everything from the novel, like in terms of all the references, because obviously they didn't get, you know, the rights to all that stuff, but there's still enough stuff there. I mean, you got the Back to the Future car, so that's always cool.
Yeah.
And they don't like describe everything. Like, I think the most to do, they went was like, oh, that's the bike from Akira. I was like, yeah. And then that was pretty much it. They just like name checked it. They didn't like go into a whole like glossary entry about what it. Yeah. The Red Letter Media guys, they did their Half in the Bag episode on it, and it's a really good episode. You should probably watch it. There's really funny, because there's a scene in the movie, because they switched the challenges around, so they're not exactly, the first two challenges aren't the same from the book. So like in the second challenge in the book is the War Games Matthew Broderick thing, where it's like you have to play Matthew Broderick in War Games in the simulator.
Right.
And so here, it's something where they have to find clues inside the Shining Mansion.
Oh, okay.
And so they have the elevator blood scene in the movie.
Oh.
Just like verbatim, except for there's a character from the movie getting rushed up in the blood. But it's that scene exactly, and then they add stuff to it, and so they're sitting there. It's like, what's this rated? The Red Letter Media guys, and it's like, I think it's PG-13, because like they say shit and then they say fuck once. So they're like, well, how did they get away with all that blood? And he's like, it's Spielberg. And then they just go into this whole thing where they're like speculating how like the MPA is like, do you need more blood, Mr. Spielberg?
Back up another tanker truck. What was the best way I heard that? Not the movie, but the book. They said like it's this generation's A Clockwork Orange. Like it's so weird and inconsistent. The book, at least, that. Like, yeah, this is kind of a modern version of an Anthony Burgess novel. I don't know how apt that is, but it's like, that sounds funny.
I don't know, like this Ernest Cline, he's one of the first things he ever did was, I can't remember the name of the movie, but that movie where it's four friends and one of them has cancer and they have to get him to see the Star Wars movie before it comes out. You remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
So that was like, so that was like his first big thing, and then he did Ready Player One. That was big for him. And then he did his latest one's
it's like Ender's Game,
Armada, and it's basically The Last Starfighter.
Oh, okay.
But I hear that one's pretty bad, so not even like a mixed perspective. It's like, no, it's bad. Don't worry about it.
There's no discontent here between audience and professional reviewers.
But he did. He was a co-screenwriter for this movie, so he did like readapt his novel, and like they did a decent job of it.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's a fun movie. It doesn't necessarily make a lick of sense. They don't cover like the more interesting aspects of the outside world. Like they kind of like, yeah, the outside world sucks, but they don't get into it. They don't like talk about how everybody has to go to school inside of virtual reality because there's just no space for schools anywhere and stuff like that. Simon Pegg shows up, but I didn't know it was him for like a long time. So like, that guy looks like Simon Pegg. It's like, is that Simon Pegg? Because he was doing an American accent, so he just looked like some boring white Midwestern guy.
Yeah, he's not as funny without his accent. Like, oh, it's just, I've seen this guy everywhere.
Apparently, Spielberg was also trying to court. Who's the guy who played Willy Wonka?
Well, the newer one or the
old one? I know who
Gene
Johnny
Wilder.
Depp is. Yeah, Gene Wilder. He's trying to court him to be like the Halliday in this movie, but he politely said no.
Oh, yeah. Gene Wilder's got to be, what, late 80s at this
Yeah.
point?
He's got to be up there.
Well, dead.
No, he's still alive.
Yeah, I don't think he could be in the movie. Well, maybe he could, yeah. And nowadays, if you're dead, maybe you can still be in the movie.
Yeah. He died like last year.
Or maybe he asked. Are you sure?
I think he did, yeah.
Got phones and stuff.
Yeah,
Maybe
everyone's-
he asked him why he was still
I
alive.
swear we talked about this on the podcast before, where it's like, oh yeah, like Gene Wilder, what is he doing? Oh yeah, he's dead. Like, he's not doing.
He's either doing great or terrible. Nobody knows.
He hasn't reported back.
Yeah, nobody's reported back.
Oh, he did die 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, maybe he.
So
So yeah,
he-
he said he had Alzheimer's too. So yeah, that'd probably be a really sad thing to have him in that movie.
I mean, it's just like the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie is on Netflix, where it has like 5 or 10 minutes of scenes with like 19-year-old Johnny Depp, and it looks really weird and it's kind of off-putting, but it technically looks photorealistic. So I mean,
Oh, they did that with Captain America: Civil War with Tony Stark.
yeah, they did.
That one was like pretty convincing. I was like, holy shit, that's a pretty good job of making young Robert Downey Jr.
Well, back when Robert Downey Jr. was actually that age, he didn't know who he was. He was on drugs all the time. He's another one of those guys I'm surprised lived into adulthood, the later adulthood. Because when you hear the stories about him, it's like, oh, this is just like Tiger Blood dude. What's his name? Charlie Sheen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like what was that movie that Shakespeare? There were 2 movies Robert Downey Jr. did that he talked about. Oh, I think it was U.S. Marshals and Richard III. He said he doesn't even remember shooting those movies. On so many drugs. It's like, I guess I did those movies. But yeah, he's back, so that's good. Been back for a while. Ready Player One.
I mean, I don't know. It's a fun time. It's probably for most of us. It's probably like when that happens upon your HBO. Like, yeah, watch it.
Yeah, that's a lot of
Probably not
movies.
worth going to the movie theater for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big spectacle, I guess. So there's plenty of probably a lot of references you want. There's a lot of video game stuff in there. Tracer from Overwatch shows up like 3 times.
What's the next big movie coming out?
I don't know. It's summertime. There's lots of big movies coming
Infinity War.
out. Deadpool's coming out.
Yeah, I know Infinity War is coming out pretty soon, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
in the
it's
next-
May something.
27th or 26th April.
That'll either be really good or not.
I don't know. It's everybody. Yeah, there's kind of a lot going on there, but those Russo brother guys, like, they did the last 2 Captain America movies, and like those have been like good and like have improved upon, kind of.
Yeah.
So like they seem to be getting better at that stuff, and also they just seem to be good writers. Like they did the paintball war episodes in Community.
Oh, okay.
So that's why they got the job for directing the Captain America movie. It was like, oh, they can do comedy and action. Here you go.
I knew there were some things coming out. I
But
didn't
yeah,
know that.
but yeah, like this, I didn't really care much for the second Avengers movie. Like it was a fine, big spectacle, and things were done well, but it was something kind of odd about the pacing in that movie.
Yeah. Hold on, I have my list here.
Unless you're looking forward to the Han Solo prequel movie that
Nope.
nobody is. And I can't remember if the new James Bond comes out this year or not.
I don't think so, but because I don't even think they've started shooting that yet.
well, because
but
somebody
maybe.
had like a.
Because I would still hear like stuff where it's like Danny Boyle maybe attached to direct the new Bond movie. It's like, well, I guess they're not shooting it then. But
I know the new Mission Impossible comes out.
oh yeah,
Because I had to sit through a million trailers today to just see Black Panther. So.
Rampage will be out April 20th.
yay!
Give a shit about that movie.
Could it be the first good video game movie? Nope.
No.
No,
Not unless it's just so weird and outside itself, which it doesn't look anything like that.
No, I mean this is from the director of San Andreas. So,
I thought that movie already came out actually, so that's why I was
Rampage?
surprised.
No.
think
I didn't know it was based on a video game until you told me. I thought, oh, this is a weird idea.
Yeah, I mean it's. I
Well,
mean it was based on an old, like, late '80s arcade game by Midway, so there's not really like a deep lore to it. It's just, but in that one, like, it's random people get hit with the goo or whatever, and then they turn into giant animals and destroy the city. It's not their animals to begin with, and they just get bigger. That's
Oh, okay.
so like even like the little bit of detail that's in the original is excised from it.
Yeah, the very thin thing that they took us on was thinned out even further.
Yeah, it's like, no, we just want monsters destroying a city.
Got Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom out in June.
That looks awful.
Yeah.
Sicario sequel.
Okay.
The original cast, but not the original director.
Yeah, that'll be iffy.
Yeah. Ant-Man and the Wasp
That looks good.
in July.
That'll
The
probably be
first
fun.
Purge, a Purge prequel.
That'll probably be stupid, but enjoyable.
Make a lot of money. 'Cause it's
Well, not a lot of money, but it'll definitely probably make its budget back.
A Skyscraper movie that Andrew
Oh,
talked
yeah.
about.
Wait, is
Yeah,
that coming? He's got two Rocks movies coming out, and
Yeah, June 13th. That'll
As
be
soon
our
as you
July
mentioned-
13th.
As soon as you mentioned Rampage, I was trying to think about the movie. Because, John, you'll probably remember this movie starring O.J. Simpson, Towering Inferno.
Oh yeah. It,
Could you go through the plot of that movie for those not initiated with that movie to remember it well enough?
well, it was. I mean, it was just a bunch of superstars. TV people, and they built what was equal to the Empire State Building, but it caught on fire, and they didn't have any ways of putting the fire out, which is a dig at because I think it was shortly after they had finished the Twin Towers, and then they realized they didn't have any way of fighting fires in those buildings because they didn't have any water pressure high enough to get the water up there. So that's and the firing inferno was basically saying, what are you going to do with these? They still haven't solved the problem.
to just put water towers on the top of them.
Well, they couldn't get enough water up there. When you have 100
Just get a helicopter.
Well, if you can't get water up there to fight the fire, how the hell do you get water up there to flush toilets? And
Well, yeah, they do that, but
Okay.
but I mean, the volume of water to fight a fire on each floor is X, and then when it's a 10-story building, you can put X times 10 on there, but when it's 100 stories and you have to put X times 100, and then all of a sudden that weighs almost as much as the building does. It's pretty, and the chemicals weigh as much as the water does, so, and kind of proved itself out, when what happened in 9/11, they had no way of fighting the fire, and the fire suppression systems just didn't work, and then the fires just and when you're burning them with diesel fuel or kerosene, it's just one of those things. But yeah, it was a kind of like a heads up movie, and they had all these named characters, at that time popular people for that. So I don't know why, because I thought they had another remake of that, one their Towering Inferno 2 or something.
No, they redid the Poseidon Adventure.
Did that one?
Yeah, because that was another one where it's like we can cram as many stars as possible into one thing.
Because everybody knows when you cram 20 stars into a movie, it makes it even better.
Well, stars were cheap back then. They didn't have the
Yeah, stars like O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, well, hey, it's. I mean, they had they.
Norberg from Naked Gun.
Well, they had and then they had a bunch of TV stars like. And a lot of the same people were in the Poseidon Adventure that were in We're in Fire Inferno.
Oh.
Poor bastards.
I'm just the background character in a disaster movie.
No, because when we were watching that new trailer with The Rock, because that's as soon as they mentioned Rampage, I'm like, God, there's another movie coming out from him, and I couldn't remember the name. And it was like it seems a lot like Towering Inferno, because eventually it's just him, like jumping off a crane, getting shot at with a machine gun, jumping through a plate glass window that shouldn't even be breakable, and then just into between fire.
Oh, one of the bullets went through the window.
Apparently. I'm sure that should pretty much be the magic bullet that solved that scenario, no pun intended, because otherwise I don't know how the hell it's just not just The Rock crashing against the window and falling down to his death, screaming the entire way.
It was a weird movie. What does it mean?
I did find myself randomly, because you were talking about your model, and you're gonna make like your own Sorcerer.
Yes.
Like remake, like if they remade Sorcerer.
Yeah, for Sorcerer needs a post-apocalyptic reboot. Yeah.
And so I was looking up like bridges.
Yeah.
It's like, because we just said the San Francisco Bridge, because that's just what you use in every apocalypse movie.
Right.
Or any movie. But I was like, well, what would be a cooler bridge to use? I don't remember the names of any of them, but yeah, I found up some weird cool. There's one like in Colorado. It's something the Gorge Bridge, and it's like, and it doesn't go over water. It just goes over. It's like 1,000 feet up in the air. It's like it's a tourist attraction, and the base of it's actually made out of wood, and like the top of it has wood planks on it, and like cars can go over it, but it's really a pedestrian bridge.
Okay.
So I thought that one seemed
that
like
would be the one. Rotted planks. Do you remember the movie Sorcerer, Dad?
No, not really.
It's 77. It's a freaking film. It was the movie he did right after Poltergeist, The Exorcist. Yeah. It's basically I don't know. We recapped it last week, but Roy Scheider's in it and some other people. They're all four of the characters have committed some awful crime in their country. Like there was a guy from the Middle East who set off a bunch of bombs in Tel Aviv, and he was on the run. There was Roy Scheider they were basically people that robbed the mafia by mistake. So he was the last guy that lived, and he's on the run. And there's a French guy who embezzled money from a bank, and then there's another guy who he was just one of the local evil people, but they're all somewhere in South America. And they take this job because they're starving to death because they're just running out of money, and there's not good work down there. Well, there's an oil field fire, and guys all take a job where they have to deliver basically dynamite that's bleaching, where the the nitroglycerin's leaked out of this dynamite. And they have to take these old trucks and drive them across country to deliver this dynamite, and then get enough money to get out of there. This is like the famous scene right here where they're driving these trucks across this wooden bridge that's just tilting all over the place. And because one of the trucks is called Lazaretto, and one of them is called Sorcerer. It's called the movie Sorcerer. But this is the famous scene here where they're like throwing planks of wood as they break, because this is like a 4-ton truck or something, and they're driving it across the bridge. The whole movie's cool, and it's got a real upbeat ending. It's like you make you feel good about everything when you're done. But I actually have one of these posters somewhere, but it's based on a French film called The Wages of Sin. That's why one of the main characters is French, which was very unusual. A lot of people didn't like this movie because the first 20 minutes of it's all subtitled, and a lot of people thought it was a foreign film. But then as they get into it, everyone starts speaking English. But it was... So anyway, that's what this is all about. I just found a truck model similar to that.
The old Army Deuce and a half, huh?
That's a Russian ZIL 131. That's a 6-wheel drive. It looks the closest. You can't. You can find out what these trucks were, because actually one of them's a GMC. They're both GMC trucks, but they don't make models of them. So you can either try to fabricate all that, or you can find something that looks close and just rough it up. So that's what I did. This one's a little different because this is a 6-wheel drive. vehicle, which you'd probably never use for this application because they had to go hundreds of miles, and I think that thing gets 8 miles to the gallon because it's a tri-fuel vehicle, so it can burn any fuel you put in it, but not very efficiently. So, yeah, so this is what I'm doing with this because I just like movies like that.
And then I also found there was a bunch of crazy bridges in China. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Ones that are like, it's like 1,000-foot bridge just going over a city.
In China, they're reenacting Sorcerer every day, but to the price. Like there's out front, like, turn this way.
There's some pontoon bridge. There's a pontoon bridge in Seattle that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's like 2,000 feet long or something like that. Because like the Golden Gate Bridge is only like 1,200 feet long or like 2,000 feet long or something like that.
The thing with the Golden Gate Bridge is its construction is so iconic. It is definitely like, oh, this looks like something made in the 19th century. Like it's very, very old looking.
There's some bridges in China and Russia that basically have the same design. They have this weird, like, really tall A arch on the bridges. Like, you might like that because it just has that weird styling to it. There's one in France. I want to say it's called Uplift or Elevator Bridge. It's the largest elevator bridge in the world. So it's a really long bridge, but in the middle of it, you have these giant towers, and then the bridge just raises up on those towers. So it raises and lowers on those towers.
Oh, wow.
It's fucking crazy.
That sounds interesting. Let's check that out.
I'm trying to watch the trailer for Sorcerers.
Oh.
Nice to see the sheriff from Jaws making more movies. The only person I know from this movie.
Yeah, it's the only person you should know from that movie.
Yeah, the other actors are French and Lebanese and yeah. You know, I have to pick unusual themes. Other people are like, I want to make tanks from World War II, or I want to make Gundam fighting robots. What do you want to do, Nathan? I want to kind of build a truck that's sort of a shitty imitation from an unpopular 70s movie. Oh, we got what you need. Actually, this is turning out pretty cool. I've done the most weathering on this that I ever have. I'm not even going to hold it up because you can't see it, but there's lots of rust and weathering effects, and there's 29 layers of paint, and I'm actually using chipping medium, which worked out pretty good. So it's definitely looking like an old truck. But I've been trying to paint the word sorcerer on the door 6 different times and failed every time because I don't have, because it's 1/35th scale, so I'm trying to figure out how to fit that word on this door, which is, it's easy to write it. It's very hard to paint it by hand. I need to get a really small brush and try that.
Well, I mean, if you got a fine tip lead pencil, you could probably write it by hand and then just trace over the lead pencil on it.
Well, that's what I've been doing, but it's hard. I gotta figure out my technique. Yeah, but I've got
Get somebody to make an applique of it and stick it on there like.
Well, you can make your own.
Or just get an ink pen. One of those old style with a really fine tip on it.
Oh, I could get like a paint pen with a super fine tip on it, a Gundam one, but I try to do another thing with me with doing rough things is I just use what's at hand. Because I was trying to make a stencil that small, and I was cutting it out, and I had my magnifying glasses and my real sharp long razor, and it worked out pretty good until I got to the last R and then rip, because I'm literally like moving it like just a hair. I'm trying to make a 1/35th scale stencil of words that would be in real life maybe 3 inches tall. So when you scale that down and then try to fucking cut it out by hand to make a stencil out of a stencil, yeah, it was several hours wasted. This is what I did instead of watching the movie we were supposed to watch. I was trying to make my stencil, but I'll figure it out, or I won't. I don't know. I have a lot of fun with this guessing game. Have you watched The Terror yet? Has anyone seen that?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Okay.
Well, I watched San Clarita Diet Season 2.
What is that? Explain that.
So it's Drew Barrymore becomes a zombie, and the family basically has to try to keep her alive.
Oh, wait, is this where they have she's eating body parts, and I think I saw a trailer for it.
Yeah. It's a very weird show, but a lot of laugh out loud moments because it's so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Because the part where she kills I think it's the first guy she kills and eats is Gary, and I think at some point like her husband thought she might be having an affair, and then then she has to describe like, oh no, she didn't have an affair with him, she killed him. And she's like, I didn't have sex with Gary, although I did eat his balls.
Was Gary was their next door neighbor who was a crooked cop?
No, he was the guy who was at their work. He was like this salesman. But yeah, they also killed the next door neighbor. Gary is the guy who's the talking head in season 2.
Oh, okay. He's yeah. They buried his. So they in season 1 they buried him. In season 2, they went and dug him up, and his head's still alive, but the rest of his body's gone. And they had Drew Barrymore was being interviewed on the Tonight Show, and she said, "Yeah, they dragged me out of the show one more time to come do it." And she said, "Well, I was having so much fun with the kids, but then after I started making the movie, it became so much fun that I really enjoyed it." But good change of pace. But she did it. I think they did the whole show in 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So but it's just in this year, she learned how to run, and she can run down animals. So I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah, that's like in the first episode or first 2 episodes. She like catches a rabbit or something.
She catch a rabbit, and then a dog then she turns loose a dog, and then she chases down this dog and catches it so they can get a contract from this one lady to sell her house. So, and it's very black humor, and it's and again, but like in the last shows of the first season, she was starting to fall apart, so they had to find out why she was falling apart. She'd lose an ear, she'd lose a nose, she'd drop a finger, and so they had.
Yeah, there's another great scene like in every episode where they're trying to figure out like how to feed her.
Yeah.
So they go to like a morgue and try to buy body parts. And they're talking to the guy, and it's like, how much for a foot? And the guy's like, is this a sex thing? And they like kind of think about it. Yes.
God. Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Did you see the what was it, Westworld, the latest trailer?
I think so.
Where they were playing Heart-Shaped Box on
Yeah,
the TV.
yeah. So
Wow, those guys really know their music. Because I was listening to the music and I was like, wait a minute, I know this is the '90s song.
well, yeah, that was the whole first season, that stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
because there's some Nine Inch Nails song that they had as an instrumental there that was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was good though. I'm looking forward to that. Season 1 was so uplifting in Westworld. That was a hopeful show. This is great.
So yeah, when season 2 come out?
It's a couple.
Should be this year.
Yeah, it's a couple. It's like in
No,
May
it's
or
like a
something.
couple weeks, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And then at some point we'll get a Expanse season 3 maybe.
Yeah, it should be this year.
They're running trailers for it all the time, but
Oh, I haven't seen a trailer for it yet.
oh yeah. It's Twitter has a bunch of them.
Are they going right into? Does the trailer make it look like they're going into the 3rd book?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Well, it talks about the one in the ambassador, the one that's played by the Indian woman, like she's back or whatever. Like that's their big tagline
Like
for the 3rd season. Like she's back.
44.
Well, she was in both seasons.
I don't know. I've only seen the first season, so I.
Well, I don't know. That'd make more sense because like she wasn't in the first book; she was in the second book. So it'd
Yeah.
make more sense that like she's back. They're following the book philosophy, not the show philosophy.
All I know is I haven't seen Westworld at all, and I've
Oh, yeah, you should probably watch
had an
that.
opportunity to buy it.
Yeah, you don't get
bought
HBO.
the last season of Game of Thrones, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, you'd you'd like Westworld.
Yeah, I'm sure I would too.
And if you haven't heard anything about it, you definitely like it. Like, just don't look up anything about it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want to pay $50 to watch it though. So.
No, I think less. I think I bought it for like $30. Well, I got it. I got it for as a for a Christmas. Someone for it as a Christmas gift. It's like $30.
Well, I guess I can look it up right now and see. Because Target, it's always $50.
I mean, I bought it during Christmas time, so it might have been sale. So.
Yeah, I mean, but that Game of Thrones I got for $30 like last week because it was finally on sale again. So.
Or maybe they're upping their price because they
Yeah,
know
'cause
people
the
are
new
going to be
season's
like,
gonna come out.
oh, I need to get ready for the new season.
Yep, time to binge.
Well, same thing with like Santa Clarita Diet. I haven't watched the second season of that yet.
I mean, that just came out like 2 weeks ago. So.
Well, I know, but it's just there's a lot of shows. Like there's even the. It's a movie with Aubrey Plaza where she plays like a crazy stalker that kind of like follows people. And
Oh,
shit.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of dark comedy. That Spoli's on Hulu for free, but I haven't had a chance to watch that yet either. Ingrid Goes West, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
But I've really wanted to watch that. Haven't. Lure, before like when you mentioned it, I was like, oh, it must be an older movie. I just don't remember. No, it's a movie I've wanted to see for a couple of years now, and just keep forgetting about that it exists.
Oh, The Lure?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, well, I definitely wish I would have watched this because I really wanted to fucking see it, and then like, god damn it, didn't have fucking time to watch it. So well, let's see. There's the Ural Brenner one that I can rent or buy for. Oh yeah, the Blu-ray's $40, 40K is $50, or 40K, 4K is $50. Because Target only has the 4K copies, and they're always $50.
Oh, I just got it on DVD.
Oh.
Maybe that's why it was $30.
Yeah, that's why it's $30. Unfortunate. I buy pretty much only Blu-ray and 4K, so that's why.
Your Blu-ray player plays DVDs.
Technically.
Secret.
My Xbox One didn't want to almost boot up today, and my PS4 is giving me issues last weekend. So, I mean, the only thing I have right now is my... I mean, yes, the 4K player also plays DVDs, but at the same time, I'm not betting on my consoles being around for much longer, at least the ones that play things. The Switch will still be around, but everything else will be dead. I don't really have the money to replace them. And I also learned last weekend that apparently high-efficiency dryers, you can't use regular dryer sheets because it'll fuck up the dryer.
What? Really?
Yeah, it'll screw up the drying sensor to cover it with wax because apparently there's wax on regular dryer sheets.
What kind of dryer sheets do you have to use?
High-efficiency dryer sheets, or you get dryer balls. Because I have a wool dryer ball right now that it makes everything static. Electricity is like out the window, but other than that, like it's actually pretty good for like it don't have to waste a dryer sheet every time I dry something.
I better
Yeah,
quit
the
using
the
those dryer
DVD is
sheets.
$20.
Then. I better quit using those dryer sheets then.
Because I paid $1,000 for a new fucking dryer. Not gonna try and ruin it right out of the gate.
Yeah, I had no idea. Huh.
Well, that's what our installation guys told me is that I need to really go get.
Well, that was bad on them. They could have got another dryer out of you.
Well, I paid for the 3-year warranty. God damn it, they're gonna fucking service.
Oh yeah, they don't want to come back to do something for free.
Yeah, true.
I told you about my dryer adventure, right? The guy came and replaced the belt and the pulley,
Oh,
and he's like, "You ever clean out your dryer vent through the house?" I was like, "I didn't know you could." He's like, "Oh yeah." So you should do that like every other year. And I said, "How old is this house?" I said, "I don't know, like 18 years old." "Have you ever cleaned it out?" "Nope." So I got one of those kits and fed it through. And then he also said I could shorten my hose because the hose from the dryer to my outlet now is about this long, whereas before I had it looped up and over. I thought it had to be that long for some reason. I don't know why. And yeah, so I cleaned all that out. We got 4 shop vacs or an entire 40-gallon garbage bag of lint out of my pipe. And now, like, it used to take forever to dry clothes. Now it's like 20 minutes. They're completely dry. And it's a new dryer, it's like 3 years old. And he's like, "Yeah, there's lint all over this thing. It's hardly getting anything out." I'm like, well, I'm glad the house didn't catch on fire. It's a lot of lint.
yeah. I found out a lot of not really interesting things when I was researching it because they had like a whole. You have to do this before you install a video, and it was like make sure your dryer because you're talking about how everything was looped up and over. Because that's the way you thought it had to be. like no, like you said, you want it as short as possible. It can only be up to 25 feet long, and you have to subtract so many feet for every 90-degree or 45-degree bend, and then mine was like this thick metal old pipe, like you'd see in a lot of older houses. It actually fell apart when I was taking the dryer out and cleaning it. Like it fell off the ceiling, and I had to go fucking duct tape it back up. Use the wire that was sitting on there to tape it back up, but it afforded me the opportunity to really clean it out thoroughly. But they asked me the same thing, and they're like, "How often do you clean it out?" I'm like, "Well, twice a year, once before wintertime and once after winter." Like that's a good cleaning schedule. You should definitely keep doing that because apparently, like you said, it just really builds up, and yeah, your house will catch fire, and it's one of the worst fires you can have. So.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is, I thought it was so bad at first. I thought I'm just going to have to get a new pipe because I was like, this thing's completely. Because it was wearing my drills down. Because you power it with a drill, it spins it around, and it just kept. I went through 2 batteries and 2 different drills, and then finally it started breaking up enough. Because you turn your shop back on the other side, it sucks it all out as you loosen it. Yeah, and it plugged the shop back up like 7 or 8 times. There are pieces of lint in there, like if you picked them up, if you threw them at someone and hit them in the head, you could kill them. They were so heavy and dense, and they broke apart like styrofoams. Like, wow, I've never seen lint this tough before. But now we're good to go for another 20 years. Until it shrinks down to a pinhole.
I don't know if I would tell.
Well, why not? It works.
Yeah, this is what my arteries are like.
Yep.
No, I'll have to look up that dryer vent cleaning kit because right now I'm just using a stupid, like, as seen on TV thing where it's like this long PVC clear tube that's like slitted at the end that you just shove through and try and get down as far as you can, and that's the best you can do. So.
Oh no, this thing will run the whole length of the house. You can get it I got it at Lowe's for $30. So it wasn't that bad.
But John, I see you in the corner. What's burning in your mind? as far
You got the stick now, Dad. I'm gonna take over for me.
Just been watching. I'm on the final season of Star Trek: The Next Generation. So
yeah, Dad's been going through all of Star Trek.
Went through the first Star Trek, and then I've been going through the Next Generation, and it's interesting, the stories they've had and the characters, they stopped running. They had 7 seasons, and I thought that I'd seen, and there were I think 30 show seasons, and I bet yet I'd only seen maybe 20 of the shows because they kept showing the same ones over and over again on TV. So it's but it's interesting, the development of the characters and then the limitations that they put on it and everything. So it was it's just, and the stories and how because they had different stories about different things that were hot topics back in the late 80s, and they're still hot topics today, so. But that's what I've been doing, and seeing how what the difference in the shows were, and then just going to work, and then I've been doing CrossFit training, trying to get my shoulder to loosen up, as I had rotator cuff surgery about 10 years ago now, and my shoulder is really giving me a problem. So. But since I've been doing, from the last 6 weeks that I've been doing CrossFit, it's it's really loosened up, and it doesn't bother me as much as it used to. So, and so that's my big life, fighting the weather. So
this winter that won't end.
I have a really bad corny joke right now. I think the originator of CrossFit training was Jesus.
Oh God.
I think there's a shirt like that. It's like Jesus didn't tap, and it's like Jesus on a cross, and it's like CrossFit and stuff like that.
And John, can you tell me, is that portrait of Nixon behind you as awe-inspiring as it looks in our camera view all the time? Like, I can imagine his stare just invigorates you to take bold new steps in life. And,
yeah, well, it's the
No, that's what
Yeah.
the Enterprise for over there is for.
again, it explains it just it just seems like we do repeat history all over again, and we always have the same the the, the topics that were hot from 80 for the first 3 years of Star Trek, and then the 7 years of Star Trek: The Next Generation. They were all the writers were trying to classically, solve the problems in an hour, which is interesting. So,
Yeah, the Next Generation was still kind of the one story wrap, like it was basically every episode at reset.
Yeah.
They still weren't having it wasn't like Battlestar where it's just a continuation of the same story over and over. Now is Discovery like that, or is that just a Battlestar type format where we're gonna do something, there's gonna be consequences, we're gonna do the next thing, and
Yeah, there's you got your overall story and you got your singular stories, but there's always if you have a story that's more encapsulated in the episode, there's usually like bits and pieces that hang on to the overall story. There's
okay.
usually always something in there. Yeah, it's more Battlestar Galactica than your normal Star Trek show. But it's also like, it's not 30 episode seasons either, so.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's because that's what started me watching the Star Trek was the Star Trek Discovery, and was trying to figure out where these people came from, because ever since they did the reboot on on Star Trek, after the they brought back all the younger characters, and Star Trek Discovery is the same, but it's like Nate Conlon said, it's been two 8 episodes, and but it was one theme all the way through of how they now all of a sudden it's they're going into the multiverse again, so it's always interesting.
Well, they always claim this wasn't part of the Kelvin universe.
Yeah, well, no, it has to be.
But now
Or
it's
no,
like,
it has not. It can't be. That's what I mean.
right,
Because
yeah.
like the Paramount-owned version of Star Trek is a very specific difference from the movie version, which I guess. Oh no, I mean the CBS version has to be different from the Paramount version.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, the Enterprise showed up at the last Discovery, right?
Yeah.
It was like which is supposed to be a more advanced ship or more powerful ship, or where does it fit in?
No idea.
Yeah, that's the weird.
Because they only just show up. They don't show the inside of it. They don't show who's in there. I think maybe there's a reference to Captain Pike, maybe.
Yeah, I think
not sure, because I haven't seen the last episodes. I just watched the Red Letter Media guys that reviewed like the second half of the season.
Yeah.
Mike is a huge Star Trek fan, and yeah, so they're sitting there debating too about like are we gonna cut over to the Enterprise, and is it gonna for some archaic reason like it has to look like the original Star Trek crew, or is it just gonna look like their Bridge 2 and they're just gonna gloss over that whole idea?
Well, the Enterprise has changed roles over the years, because Starship lore is I've always liked the ships as much as anything, but it was a Discovery vessel, but you look up the blueprints like they wrote for it for the books and the scripts and the stuff that came out, it was a battle cruiser. Like the Enterprise was always a heavy battle cruiser, but then somehow it became a ship of exploration and discovery. It's like, well, according to the blueprints, it's a battle cruiser, at least the original 2.
Well, yeah, because they kind of gloss over it, but it's always, even in the original series, they always talk about the Klingons as like somebody they were having a war with at some point, and that war stopped, and so the Enterprise was like the tail end of it. Like, we have to be ready for something, but ultimately this is a research vessel, but it's a very powerful research vessel.
It's a super weaponized research vessel. Yeah, I do. I've only the only thing I know about Discovery is what I can piece together, because I can't do another pay service, because I just refuse to, because I've got cable, I've got Audible. I gave up XM for Audible, so
They can love it.
Good trade.
I mean, they're starting to have some interesting series come to it, because they're going to have the new Twilight Zone one on there.
Yeah.
And there's another one I can't remember, but It was one of those where it seemed like it was going to come to TV, and now it's just going there. But it's like another interesting sci-fi series. I can't remember, but yeah, they have another thing coming there.
Yeah.
And all the NCIS you could want.
Yes.
All 30 seasons of NCISs.
That's got to be a great gig. Working on one of those shows.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You're not getting 4, so.
Oh no, those guys make a fortune. Well, I can't believe with like the people on The Simpsons, what they make and what they've made for a long time.
Especially for voice actors.
Yeah, that's the best voice acting gig in the world.
Because most voice actors, you gotta do like 80 gigs in a week just to get food on the table.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I do 1 day of recording for the year.
You weigh 800 pounds and nobody'd care.
They would. Yeah, they don't care what you know, but well, it's just like the what's on Comedy Channel, South Park.
Yeah,
It's going on what 10,
So,
12, 15
over 20 years.
over 20 years.
Yeah, so it's
Came out in like 98.
That's a show that's evolved a lot.
I still
You
think
know what
they
the
have.
creators of those shows did this? What did they do this week or recently?
What, they just announced that they're Republicans, but whether that mean anything or not.
Well, it was some organization that was like an arts it was like a super liberal organization, gave them an award for free speech, and they basically stood up at accepting their speech saying, yeah, we're Republicans, we always have been, but you know, you never know with those guys, is they're just fucking with everyone. Or my favorite story was how they took acid, like a bunch of acid they saved before they got their Academy Award, because they said on the red carpet they were talking about it like, you can tell right there we are tripping balls. Oh my god, these guys are nuts. And I love their production scheme. It's that they finish the episode, box it up, and send it to South Park, or send it to Comedy Central. And what does Comedy Central have? An hour to decide whether to air it or not.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, that's nuts. Because they own the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. Because, yeah, on their... Well, I think they at one point they had it on their website, which is just South Park Studios. They had all the seasons on there, but then they I think they sold it to Hulu, or they just let Hulu have it. Because it was just available for free. Like, you didn't have to have anything, just an internet connection. You could watch every episode of South Park.
Yeah, I know Grayson, he watched every episode that way. He went back and he's like, Dad, do you remember this one? Yes, I do. I do remember that one. Dad, do you remember this one? Yes, I've watched every episode of South Park.
Oh.
And he was 8. No, he was 12.
I don't want to sound like an irresponsible father. He was 8.
So funny. Remember that promo they were running that one season where they had like still pictures of the characters from South Park, and they were doing horrible things, and it was little kids. It's like, do you remember when this happened? And we were there, and it was all little kids that were fans of South Park. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much, that shows that's not an ironic commercial in this house. Grayson started watching that stuff pretty young.
I don't know, when did Beavis and... Because as far as I know, I always watched Beavis and Butthead when it was out, but I don't know when it came out.
94, 95.
No, let's see. What's the year? It was 80, 88. Because it was the beginning of when MTV went from musical to.
Oh, that's when they were on Liquid Television. That was kind of a different Beavis and Butthead. That's the one where it was all just the weird animation, and the guy was. They didn't play music then.
What, MTV or
no, Beavis and Butthead?
Oh,
Because they had this thing called Liquid Television, and I forget. I was like late 80s, early 90s, and then Beavis and Butthead and Eon. But they were kind of their own separate shows then.
because I remember I think Conlon was 5 or 6 years old, and he was watching Beavis and Butthead, and I heard some of the language that they were saying, and it's like, I don't think I'd be watching this.
Well, the show officially came out in 93.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when it was on Liquid Television.
Might have been
though.
like shorts or something like that. Before.
Yeah, because the shorts were on Liquid Television, so...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was, I think, 3 shows that came out of Liquid Television. 2 of them Beavis and Butthead and Aeon Flux, or Aeon Flu, or however they said that.
That's
Yeah.
Flux.
Did you ever watch the Aeon Flux, the regular series?
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, this clears it all up. It's like this man. I never understood what I was seeing until now, and then the movie was great too.
It says Liquid Television was 91 to 94. So.
Okay, so it wasn't even in the 80s then.
Oh, so you were older than I thought. So.
Sometimes I feel older than I thought.
Well, I mean, it's just like Simpsons first came out, and then they had that.
It was like on the Tracy Ullman show in like 80 something, like because
Simpsons started in 87, I think.
yeah, something like that. And then like it was on the Tracy Ullman show like a year or two before that, which I've never seen the Tracy Ullman show. She has like 3 Tracy Ullman shows because she even like 5 years ago she came back and had like a season on HBO. It was like the Tracy Ullman show. Like again.
Oh yeah, that's. You remember hearing about that?
And still no one cares. Like,
I forget what. Well, she wrote a lot of the show herself, and they, because she's crazy as Lewis Black is, and and so she tried to do some things, and a lot of the people couldn't keep up with her because she's British and she'd want to do all these things at one time, and it's just because they were talking to her about it, and that's why she had so many trouble with her show because she kept running out of writers because she kept writing a lot of the stuff herself. So
People don't like those 100-hour work weeks.
yeah.
50 shoot or 50 episode shoots or whatever.
The government's paying for this, right?
Yes, it's all BBC writers. And like, no one's paying their TV tax with the TV detector van.
I was surprised this week to learn what Avatar's schedule and shit's up to with James Cameron releasing 4 sequels to Avatar in 5
That's
years.
been around for like 8 years.
No, I know, but it's like supposedly
He's gonna do 4 movies. Are you gonna do the second one yet? In 10 years.
But it's like basically by like December 2020 when the first one comes out, it'll basically be like over 10 years since the first one came out, and it's like, oh holy shit, this is gonna it's supposed to be gonna cost like $1 billion to do all those movies, and I'm sure it'll be over budget.
Oh yeah. All his movies go over budget, but also every movie he releases is the largest money making movie ever made.
Yeah, but will it be after we've waited this fucking long for the second
Oh
one?
yeah.
I don't know. It was like 10 years between Titanic and Avatar.
The fact he's adding Kate Winslet to the cast for some reason. And,
Oh, they know each other.
yeah.
I mean, he had.
Not that you can't add people to the cast, but the whole cast is coming back.
Well, it's
to
not like it was the
too.
greatest cast. Although I did like Sigourney
That movie
Weaver.
was more of a visual treat than there weren't a lot of Academy Awards coming out of that for acting.
It was more of a novelty than really even a good James Cameron movie. But
I didn't really like. I've seen it once, and that was
Yeah.
it.
I saw it in the theater, and it was packed, and we were in the front row, and so basically the 3D effect was kind of fucked.
Yeah, you're just looking straight up.
So yeah, it was not a good way to see that movie. I've not seen it since. So.
Yeah, it's still incredibly long, and yeah, it's not a bad movie.
I was surprised they're making a sequel to Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, because that like failed the box office. They like renamed it on the DVD cover like 3 times.
Yeah,
Because now it's like if you look at the DVD cover, you'd think the name of the movie is Live, Die, Repeat.
yeah.
But
What was the original? What was the Japanese title of that?
all you need is kill.
That's what they should have just. I mean, Tom Cruise, I think, is financing a lot of it, though.
Probably.
And it's-
Depends because that's a Fox movie, right?
I think so.
So yeah, because it usually works with Paramount, and they're in their shitter right now. So maybe just Fox has money, and they just got bought by Disney. So who knows?
Yeah,
Pretty
Disney,
soon, all entertainment will be Disney, right?
Disney killing Groundhog Day. Like that sounds like a movie Disney wants to finance.
When's Disney gonna buy Apple?
Hell, when's Disney gonna buy Time Warner? When's Disney gonna buy fucking
Well, we're heading towards one cable company.
Yeah. even
We're
though
about
they're-
3 years away from that, where they're just gonna allow that to happen. Like there won't be any problem with that.
Yeah, they need.
Well, because everyone's bailing on cable so quickly, though. They're just dying.
Yeah, but at the same time, they said, like, this year, like, physical books sales outdid digital book sales. I mean, not that
How
people
and
aren't.
why?
I don't know, but at the same time, it's like just because something's dying doesn't mean it's gonna die immediately. I mean, there's.
Oh no, cable's been dying for a
Well,
long time.
They're just
now,
looking at trends and being reactionary.
well, cable's been going downhill.
Well, it's cable TV. Like, still people still need internet connections, but I imagine there's a lot more internet being done on people's phones than your home and your computer and stuff like that. That's kind of the thing.
Well, people can't afford it. They can't afford it all. You can do one thing.
Well, that's why they're trying to.
Idiot like me is like $500 a month for cell phone and cable. Great. What the fuck else am I doing? They don't need to retire or anything. Just work until I die.
It's
But no, it's just literally. I mean, they need to get a lot of the. Stop screwing around with all these monopoly laws they've had on the books and antitrust legislation and start.
You mean enact them or get rid of them? So there's.
No, like enact them. Enact them.
Hail the great leader.
Enact them and actually start enforcing them because this is fucking ridiculous. There's enough companies out there. There needs to be, actual competition and actual non-collusion between.
Well, here's the thing. It's like with internet providing, because believe me, once I hit this bandwidth thing, I started intensively researching alternate. Because I'm willing to you want to run fiber optic hookups into my house? How much money up front? Okay, I'll save it, just to fucking be done with these assholes and have a decent, really good internet. But you can't even get it. Like FiOS, they have all the old signs around here. FiOS is coming. Google Fiber, they had all these signs. All that shit's gone. The government put like $20 billion into FiOS and fiber and all those other things. There's like 2 states that have it, and then that's it. And that's not expanding, and because the I don't know why, because they just wanted $20 billion to steal, or the costs are overrun, or something in between there.
Yeah, building that infrastructure is pretty outrageous, but.
Well, the government was going to pay for 75% of it.
Yeah, but that's why private companies bilk the government for it. Then they go to the voters and like, oh, this government spending. It's like it went to private companies. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, it's not just some pork product.
you remember McLeod there in Cedar Rapids?
Yeah.
They before they went out of business, though, they were trying to put in fiber optics all over the city, and then they just stopped doing it, and then they sold their. Oops, sorry.
That's good. That's why I hate those kind of mics.
Then they sold their business, and and then all of a sudden the fiber optics died, and now Mediacom's back in there. I'm putting more fiber optics in, but this doesn't seem to.
Well, the problem is like America's so big, it's hard to do that because like you look at. Like the internet in like Japan or even South Korea and stuff like that. It's like it's amazing. It's like, yeah, that's a country the size of Colorado. Like, yeah, we could do awesome things if America was the size of Colorado.
Yeah, if America was just like California, like that was our way, and we had the kind of material wealth we do, there'd be flying cars and shit. No question. We just have this wide stretch of misery in the middle of the country that's between the 2 coasts where the rest of us can afford to live.
Because even like
you don't get all the fiber optic shit.
Like the interstate system, like the only way they were able to sell that was they had to have a dual purpose for military purposes. That was the only way they were able to sell the highway system.
Yeah, because you could move military equipment rapidly around when I don't know what they thought would happen. The Russians are parachuting.
Yeah. Or you could land planes on it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's the only way they got the highway system through. It's like, oh, it's a war thing. It's like, oh, cool, we'll spend money on it.
Well, with Dwight D. Eisenhower, I think they said in 1928 or 1929 that he wanted to see how long it would take to take an army, from the East Coast to the West Coast. and and what all the things that would involve with it. And it took him, I think it took him almost 5.5 months to get the army
Jesus.
from the East Coast to the West Coast. And then he proposed that that they come up with the interstate system because because they couldn't do that, and the and then when NORAD and all the other things came about, they had to get from north to south too, so they just couldn't do that, and so he proposed the interstate system, which helped business more than it did industry, but it also gave the Russians a thing to say, well, if they can get from one end of the country to the other end of the country and can get one army all the way across the country in less than 15 days, then we can't do anything because we can't get the army from the East Coast to the West Coast, and they were still, I don't even know if they could do that now.
No, they still can't.
Because the only transportation system they have is a Trans-Siberian rail system, and it doesn't run all the time.
Yeah. Well, they did build infrastructure to do that, but now you can famously see it in that Ewan McGregor documentary. He drives a motorcycle across Russia, and you can see all that dilapidated infrastructure that they just let go to shit.
Oh yeah, you wanna take a journey into the folly of mankind. Is like go to there's websites, just whole YouTube documentaries, abandoned Soviet relics. Well, they just have whole cities that they built for one purpose, and then when the Soviet Union fell apart, they didn't need that mine there, or whatever these brand new cities that were built in the late 80s were for, and they just abandoned them. Like there's 1,000 Pripyats in Russia. They weren't abandoned because a nuclear power plant exploded. They're just abandoned because like there was no Soviet Union to tell people you have to live there and we'll just truck in your food and shit. Once the Soviet Union fell, these people stopped getting food and electricity. They just left. Just left the apartments, like, see ya. And then all the people came from the countryside and looted them. And so there's like, this, how you get these little peasant shacks where the guy's got 15 TVs against one wall and shit. It's like, oh, that's from looting. But yeah, the Soviets did crazy stuff like that. But it was all the Russians dug the deepest hole in the world just to say they could and put millions and millions of rubles, and we have largest hole. Good job. Thank you, Russia.
Well, when you realize that the landmass of Russia is bigger than Canada, isn't it? Or
no, Canada's still the biggest. I think Russia's a little bit less of a wasteland. Because Canada, literally, you live right along the border. That's it.
But there's only 170 million people in Russia for that much of a landmass. So I mean, most of Russia is just like Canada. It's empty. And there's 350 million Americans, and it's but we're supposed to be equal, as far as terrorism goes. So.
Oh.
Well,
that's the weird thing is people forget is America is the third largest country in the world in population. I mean, the first two, we fall off pretty dramatically compared to them. They have like 700 million more people per nation than we. It's kind of like us in military spending. It's like America's number one, Britain's number two, and then you look at the raw numbers, and it's like, oh, that's a steep drop down to 2. Holy shit. We're spending as much as the first 7 nations. But yeah, that's there's some weird numbers out there. I mean, there's parts of it's like when Grayson went to Tennessee on vacation. Now, he was frustrated as fuck. Dad, there's no Wi-Fi anywhere. I was like, oh yeah, you're in the South, son. Once you cross the Mason-Dixon line, you drop 30 IQ points pretty fast.
Well, it's like when we moved to Kentucky, for the first 6 months we lived there, we had a party line.
Oh, where you had the shared phone line with the neighbor? Oh God.
We were 3 rings, and the neighbor was, we had 3 people on the line. We were 3 rings. The next person was 2 rings, and the primary person was 1 ring. But that's because that's all the phone. No, there's no phone lines. And this is when phone lines were very important. This is long before cell phones.
That's when phone lines were like actual copper lines that ran the things, right?
Yeah. But I mean, that's and in Danville, Kentucky is
What's a phone?
what's a landline? Yeah, that's the
It's like to see someone pick up a rotary phone. Hey Siri. No, not for real. Just kidding.
well, it's like in Star Trek, the voyage home when Scotty picks up, starts talking to the Apple computer, computer, and then he hands him the mouse, and he starts talking to the mouse, and the guy says, "No, you have to do this." And no, that was 1984, and that was that's. I mean, it's the things that I mean, it's just like the cell phones. The first flip phones were directly related to people's fascination with the communicators on Star Trek 1 or Star Trek the
original series.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason there was a flip phone, because Nokia came out with a phone and it didn't flip. It just had the buttons there, and it was a better phone than the flip phones, but people had to have the flip phone so they could
Talk to the Starship.
Yep. So
Well, that's the one thing when you watch The Next Generation, you can see where all the shit we have now came from. Because remember, they had iPads. Picard was always using one to do something, and they had the mobile interfaces that you just touched and stuff. And back when they were doing that, it was like, we'll never be able to do shit like that. Everything's got to have buttons. It's you can't have things now. You don't have any. There's no buttons anymore. Everything's just touchscreen.
But we have not adopted the LCARS interface.
No, there's an app for that. You can make your computer look like that, and it's like, wow, this looks like shit. My computer can make many more colors and things much brighter than that. And we never had the talk to computers or the food synthesizer.
Oh, that's coming soon with all their making chicken and beef now from nothing but DNA strands in a lab. I'm sure that'll be coming.
No, I mean something where it just materializes and you pick it up.
The food synthesizer is basically like a teleporter, but it just grabbed material from something and
probably
made
just
food.
Like teleported food from Earth or people's houses. They're making food, like ready to sit down and dive into a steak, and then teleports away. You're like, God damn it, not again.
Earl Grey hot. Fuck.
Now is just the 3D printers that can print food.
Yeah.
And print drugs and things like that.
Well, somebody was telling me at work that they want to do, like they started out doing beef with that, and then they're like, no, that's way too fatty. Chicken's way better because there's not as much fat and it's not as complex, and people could just be like, yeah, it tastes like chicken. Not a weird taste like there was with beef, apparently.
You've heard the Radio Lab about why everything tastes like chicken, right?
No.
Because we don't really have our brain kind of defaults to like something familiar, and because people eat rattlesnake or whatever, it's like, yeah, it tastes like chicken. It doesn't really taste like chicken. It's just chicken is something kind of generic, and it's because there's not really a huge flavor there unless you put shit in with it. Yeah. So everything that looks like chicken, because most meat is like white and shit, it tastes like chicken to us because we don't really know what to say it tastes like. What does it taste like? Rattlesnake. How do you know? It kind of gets that whole logic process you fall into. It's like, I really don't know what this tastes like, but I know what it looks like. Because if they served you bison or something, what would you say it tastes like? Yeah, it tastes like beef. Gamey beef. Even venison, if you didn't know what it was, it's like, that's a weird. Is that lean beef? It's you wouldn't know unless somebody told you. But yeah.
Well, it's like they now can print, or they can make or grow pig.
Yeah.
And so now they have people where the rabbis will bless the pig meat and make it kosher, because it's not from pigs, it's grown in the lab, that it's going to be kosher, so that they won't have their restriction on eating pig meat anymore. So
Well, this is just not what God intended. That sounds like that's that hole in the blanket thinking. I found this passage that anything I do through a hole in the blanket isn't a sin.
Because I thought the definition of kosher isn't it just like it's not like the byproduct of an animal, but it's also not like melding two things together like dairy and meat or something like that. Like it's not.
I don't.
One clean source or something like that.
I don't know what it is. I don't know. I have not.
It's you have to pay like a rabbi to consider something kosher, and so I don't know what their standards are.
So it's basically just bribery.
Yeah.
Not food bribery.
Not to get too conspiratorial here or talk about the Jews.
Hey, I didn't say anything about Jews.
I didn't say Drew.
I
meant all the negative things after it, though.
Nobody exactly says Jews. That's
these Hasidic people that we're talking about.
I don't know. As you can tell, I live a life free of any dietary restrictions. So I don't know why anyone wouldn't eat bacon. But I also know what trichinosis is, and I also know that this stuff is all from Levitical law, which is like antiquity. And so there wasn't a lot of refrigeration or food prep going on back then. So I think a lot of reasons people weren't allowed to eat certain things was because it was just killing everyone. And the quick way to solve that problem is not to appeal to people's logic. Like, if you eat that, you will die. No, it's got to be, God will eat you if you eat. Oh, okay. Well, we won't eat it then, because after all, that's the most, our most powerful tool for understanding the universe. Irrational fear of an invisible God. That will lead us.
Well, it's kind of like, how when your kid was younger and I don't know if maybe you didn't do this, but I know my mom did, where you'd say, hey, if you do this and you do this, this is going to happen. Just the promise of some great future rewards enough to keep you from doing stupid or illogical things otherwise they would normally do. Just basically.
Yeah, I kind of I told Grace, it's like, if you play with fire, you're going to get burned. If you stick your hand under that furnace or that heater, because I have a gas stove, and you'd watch the blue flames, go ahead and put your hand in there, you're going to get burned. He did once, only once. But I was never really much into threatening. It's like, go out and experience it. I mean, as long as you're not putting a gun in your mouth and pulling the trigger, anything you live through, go out and have fun with it. Just don't bring home herpes or a bunch of unwanted kids. That's going to be a problem.
And then he's married and brings his first grandchildren over. No, that's an unwanted kid. It's like, no, sorry.
Should have just told him to put a gun in his mouth.
Unwanted pregnancies. The old Doc Martin and the trip down the stairs. There's all kinds of solutions.
Have you guys watched the latest episode of AP Bio?
No.
My wife, I've watched some of those. I can't say how current I am. Stacy likes that.
Okay, I mean, this is the latest one on Hulu. I'm sure there's probably a couple ones that actually aired on NBC that I haven't seen yet. I never thought you could make killing your children by drowning them funny, but apparently that show managed to fucking do it. I was laughing my ass off at the end of the last episode because they all have these learner babies that are programmed, like the fake baby dolls that cry if they need changed or fed or not rocked or whatever.
Yeah.
And apparently they bought slightly irregular ones that they just cry all the time and they can't stop it, and it's maddening. And so he just grabs all the dolls from the class and goes throughout the school with his big laundry hamper with all the fucking baby dolls, and then it cuts to okay, what the hell happened to him and all the dolls? What is he doing? And then he's just going shh and just drowning them in the swimming pool. Just hundreds of fucking baby dolls just floating in the swimming pool, just him submerged, just holding their heads underwater, just going shh.
Oh, God. That's amazing.
I know, it's this is on NBC. What the fuck?
It's a summer pickup show, so they can get away with a little more.
That was funny as hell. definitely not anywhere near the reality of when somebody actually does that in real life, and it's horrible.
Stop that.
I wanted to be in the writers' room when somebody pitched that. Like, okay, he's gonna drown a bunch of kids into the episode. It's gonna be hilarious, and they're like, "What?" Like,
You've seen those aerial. Speaking of grim stuff, you ever seen those aerial photos from China, where they did like statistical analysis, and it's like they have they did aerial photos of graveyards and cemeteries and stuff, and most of them are just ashes in a tube. But so there's this many bodies or remains of bodies stored in this area. How many of them do you think are girls under the age of 1? And he's like, well, that's kind of uncommon. Or someone like 60%. And you know all those kids were murdered, like because everyone wants boys there, and it's like, oh my god. So they just had these cemeteries with these like color coded, like these were adults who lived to a certain age. These were young men. These were men that died in wars. These are little baby girls, and it's this huge block of. It's like, oh my god, that's dark, because that's been going on since whenever they started that one-child policy.
Yeah,
that's been going on a long time. It's just an insane amount of. And the number of abortions they have there, that they still have to this day, are pretty crazy.
you think you'd see more of a population? I mean, I know the population would keep going up just because of the sheer numbers, but you'd think you'd see a slight decline in the uptick just from you were talking about killing that many, girls because only one-child policy and abortions and all this other stuff from such a male-driven culture. You think it would take in more of an impact on their population?
Oh, it has. That's why they went away from the one-child policy. That's why men there can't find anyone to marry. And they'll marry some of the most dog-faced women you'll ever see because, like, that's the only woman in the village that's available. And because all women there want to marry up. They want to marry, the Chinese oligarchs or whatever. That's what they don't want the guy who makes your, whatever people do for norm. They don't want the guy that works at the iPhone plant that's only trying to kill himself 6 times this month. They want something better, so it's miserable there for stuff like that because of that. Because it is out of balance. It does right itself once you start those artificial barriers. There's always been like 51% women, 48% men. That's like pretty much average. Because if there was nothing there to balance it, then yeah, societies would be really weird and out of control. If you had like 90 women to every man or something. The Middle East had something like that for a long time because all the men would die in wars. That's why you had harems and stuff like that, because there was literally 10 women for every man. But that once all the killing stops, that shit tends to right itself. At least you hope so. It's going to get really fucking weird.
So what's the Mormons' excuse? They have like 10 or 12 women to every man. Well,
they're just horny. Again, that's hole in the blanket stuff. It's like, hey, I found something in the Bible. It says I can fuck all the women I want to. It's like, oh, so you're bringing God into this now. There's a special place in hell for people like you, that whole false prophets in the book to the epistles or whatever. It's like, yeah, go ahead and make up that fake stuff so you can have sex with a bunch of women. It might seem cool to everyone looking in from the outside, but you got to answer for that someday. And God's not going to be happy with you. Or you're just going to do whatever the hell you want to and die, and it doesn't matter. It's one or the other. Take your chances. See what happens. Well, I see we've hit that sound wall.
Well, I was watching a interview on the show about they were talking about the Isle of Dogs. And if you look at it, it says what it really says is "I love dogs," is but it's all claymation.
Oh, the new Wes Anderson thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Every character is they move it a little bit, they take a picture. They move it a little bit, they take a picture, and it was
What did he do? The Mr. Fox was that way too.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Mr. Fox.
Yeah.
Criminally, that movie is not playing anywhere around here.
Oh, it isn't?
No, there's no showings anywhere.
Oh, has it actually been released yet?
It has for like 3 or 4 weeks now.
Oh, okay.
It's just not playing around here because apparently Wes Anderson doesn't play well in Hickville. Or whatever.
I mean, yeah, but it's also a kids movie, so you figured it would just.
Yeah. Well, there's Sherlock Gnome, and there's that stupid Oprah Winfrey fucking movie that I have no idea who the hell wanted to see that.
Is it The Wrinkle in Time or
Yeah.
what?
I don't even know how that movie's done.
Well, Isle of Dogs comes out in next week.
Does it?
Said it
Yeah,
released
it's an
like
early
2 weeks
release some places, but wide release April 12th.
And the guy from what is it? Not from the meth guy from
Bryan Cranston?
Yeah, he's one of the voices on there
Yeah.
for the dog, and he's
Jeff Goldblum, Edward Norton. God, there's like a couple others.
Probably Bill Murray.
yeah, Bill Murray's on there,
George
of course.
Clooney again. And then, he does a really good job with Fantastic Mr. Fox. Like, I didn't think I'd like that movie because it was so different from his other stuff.
Yeah, well, I thought it was just going to be a kids movie, so I probably wouldn't like it, but yeah, it was pretty enjoyable for what it was.
Is what on Rotten Tomatoes? How what is it?
It's early release 92%. Actually, it's out here.
We might have a bigger area,
Yeah.
so. Because, like you say, that Ann Arbor area is like a couple million people, so like,
Yeah.
Cato.
What's the population of Cedar Rapids? Like less than 300,000.
So,
yeah.
so has anybody here seen the Black Panther?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just did today.
Oh, and
It was okay.
I already talked about it. We can get Andrew's opinion.
No, it was just I thought it was a fine movie. It's just not anything that stood out. I thought the humor fell really flat, and there wasn't really the action scenes were good, but suddenly like Rhino's best, really cool tech and shields, all the other stuff, and just like all of a sudden the secret weapon is rhinos with armor plating, and that doesn't make any sense. And like Wakandan lives don't matter apparently. They'll just shoot down anybody at random, but then they try and keep everybody alive on the ground. It's just, there are certain parts of that movie I didn't get. Like, I think they could have made better choices or better choices of what to leave into the film as far as time was concerned. Like, I thought the villain didn't have enough screen time or enough motivation. Besides just, I mean, look,
Revenge.
yeah, besides just revenge or like, you get what he was going for, and he was still a good actor and still a good character. But I just wish they would have spent more time with him instead of just like catching up with him like every once in a while, and then that was it. Because I know you're like, I liked all the female actors in it. I thought were really strong. Like his main royal bodyguard, I liked her a lot. His love interest was actually kind of interesting, even though she didn't really get a lot of screen time necessarily, or really deep dive into her either. His sister was more interesting than I thought she would be.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I mean, those are the highlights of the film. Like, nobody had a bad role. There wasn't any bad characters. It was just, I thought it could have, I don't know, focused on certain things more and made it a stronger movie.
Well, like I said, the villain was more interesting than the protagonist, so that's
Yeah.
not necessarily a great thing. So you don't really learn too much about Black Panther. You just kind of get more of a lore behind it, I guess.
Yeah, and I was kind of I think the setting, like, I know it kind of has to stick tight in that timeline. It has to fit as far as, like, right after Civil War and...
Yeah, they kind of did their own thing. They didn't necessarily try to latch on to any other stuff yet, except for at the end.
It just felt like maybe there should have been more time between the end of Civil War and then where the movie took place, because it seemed like it was right on top of it.
Yeah.
And Civil War's been out for a while now, so it's, I don't know, it's kind of like, I don't know, I didn't like that.
There's I forget the line in it, but there's a really great line, and I'm going to screw it up. It's when he's like taking a drug and hallucinating his father in the afterlife. And his father tells him, like, he says, the problem is you're a good man, and sometimes it's hard to be a good man and a king.
Yeah, good men can't be kings. So
That sounds about right. That's the current state of our country.
we don't have any good kings. Yeah, no, it's a
Both, all three.
So three.
Oh, there's a weird part. There's like the council in there, and like all the council, they kind of represent different cultures, not just like Wakanda, but like all kind of African culture. There's people with like big lip plates and shit like that, and it's like your director better be black if you're doing this shit.
Yeah.
So likely it was.
Well, my question was too, like, they're near the ending of the movie, like the big confrontation scene, like they're putting all these weapons onto planes and sending them to, you know, all the places they name, like London, Hong Kong, shit like that.
Yeah.
And it's like the goal was to get the oppressed to rise up and overthrow their governments. And it's like, how do you know who the oppressed are? Just anybody that comes by and like, I'm oppressed, or is it just like?
Well, no, they follow that in the movie because they have spies out there all over the world. So they have reports of like who's being repressed and stuff like that. And so that's why while Killmonger's dad was trying to get weapons, because like he was living in like that, because it starts with like they're in the middle of like the LA riots or stuff like that, or something like that. So he's like trying to help the black people there because he's like ashamed of his country because they get not doing anything to help these people. So you can see like where like he's following the lineage of his father, and you can see like stuff like so where like they're just observing, like they're having this successful time, but they're just pretending to be peasants while they're getting all information on all the other black people in the world. Like, hey, this sucks for them. Oh well.
I like how the signs of Wakanda, Illinois, are just disappearing. Welcome to Wakanda and all those signs, and people are standing. You know, they're having traffic jams, like, you know, people standing in front of Wakanda. You know, because that's a suburb of well, the real Wakanda is a suburb of Chicago, and but, yeah, they were talking how they're having all these problems there. So.
Welding the bolts on the signs.
Yeah.
I was like, the movie's still doing really well though. I mean, it made $12 million last weekend.
Yeah, it's like 2 months.
I don't know what it's on track to do, I guess, but
I think it's already the largest money-making superhero movie in the U.S.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know it's been big.
Third highest grossing film ever. That's what it's heading towards. Unless there's a drop off.
It just beat Titanic. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to get past Avengers and one of the Harry Potter movies, because those were like the top ones.
I thought Avatar was still the top grossing movie of all
No, Avengers came along and beat it. It used to be.
Oh.
But I'm not sure, because when you put in international, then like the numbers get so crazy, and then like things move along. Because like there's certain movies like, oh, this is huge in America, and nobody give a shit about it internationally. But like if it's both, if it's like huge in America and huge internationally, then you're getting up to like you made like $1.4 billion or $2 billion worldwide.
Yeah, because in the United States it's made like $600 million or $693 million, which was it past. But worldwide it's like $1.7 billion of you know.
I'm sure it's a loss.
Oh, and then at some point, because like that Jurassic World movie at one point was like the largest grossing movie ever at some point.
Yeah, it's still made like almost $2 billion worldwide.
Because that was like the year that who puts that out?
Universal.
Yeah, Universal. Were like they didn't have a whole lot of movies. They kind of had like the Fast and Furious franchise, and then they had like 3 like billion dollar movies that year. It was like one of the Minion movies. Or either it was, I think it was either a Despicable Me movie or the Minion movie, the Fast and Furious movie, and Jurassic World all came out in the same year for them, and they made almost like $4 billion with 3 movies.
That's a good return on your investment.
Yeah.
It's not bad if you can get it.
No, it's. But they were saying that it's. Again, they're going to be, the movie theaters or the movie, movies are going to be down to what, three studios in the United States anymore.
Yeah, it's heading that way. They keep consolidating,
and then they have to and then the characters are going to have to be international characters anymore. you're going to have everybody in these movies.
Well, I mean, yeah, because it's what's getting settled down to for like theatrical movies. You have, they're playing it safer. It's meant for more international audiences. But then you have like these smaller movies, like what Netflix and Amazon are doing is like, yeah, we'll throw $10 million down the hole for this weird indie movie. Because there's a lot of like movies on there now that are that would get released in theaters, and now they're just on Netflix. And now they're even weirder than they were before. So that's a good and a bad thing.
Yeah, Netflix kind of become a junkyard for movies sometimes.
Yeah.
Look at Amazon Prime; they get some really, they get like the antique shit though.
Well, yeah, because Amazon, their movie studio, they make better movies than the Netflix does, but Netflix usually makes better TV shows. But I don't know. I still haven't seen that. Was it Beast of No Nation? Is that one?
Yeah, I mean, keep meaning to see that. I
never watched it. But yeah, I think that's just like movie theaters are just going to become big popcorn action comic book movies, and then your real movies are going to come out on Netflix and Amazon and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's
I don't know what what the Academy Awards are going to be about anymore, because they're not going to spend any money making those movies. I mean, the ones that usually win the Academy Awards.
Well, they'll just be all British movies.
Was it Spielberg already came out and said like Netflix doesn't deserve to be at the Oscars or something like that?
Probably.
There was some famous director that was just basically like, oh, they're just trash and it's not worth anything. I think there has been good movies. Like I liked Mute on Netflix. I thought that was a good movie. And it's like it's not every time they put out a movie it's good, but there's like at least one or two every year that are good movies.
Well, even like the ones I didn't like, I thought they were strange enough to deserve existence.
Yeah.
That was that one with Adam Scott where his kid's like Satan. You remember that one?
The Devil Spawn or something like that,
yeah, something like that. And like you watch the trailer for it, it's like, okay, this is just a comedy, like the Omen movie.
Yeah.
And then you watch it, and it's like a lot weird. It's not a straight up comedy. It's like a weird drama comedy thing. It's super weird. Not necessarily like entirely enjoyable, but I'm glad it exists because no one would ever make this fucking movie because some, focus group would say something's too weird and they'd have to like reshoot it or change an edit. And like someone just told them like, hey, just make a movie. And they made the fucking movie they wanted to make.
Well, there's that one guy.
All you.
The one guy did Snowpiercer. His next movie came out on Netflix, like Super Pig movie, where it's like the Super Pig escapes and like goes on a cross country trek and they're trying to harvest it and like kill it and shit. Like that movie was fucking weird. It's not bad, but it's not good. But does it deserve the right to exist? Yes. It was a concept you wouldn't see otherwise in the theater.
Yeah, that's what I really enjoy about the Netflix stuff is that. Yeah, this never would see the light of day because it's too weird. And I like that they're making weird movies. And, it's not in the theater, but, like, would you even enjoy watching a movie like that in the theater? Like, it just make you uncomfortable in the darkness. And
Yeah.
Well, in Netflix, I like how they, like a movie. Well, I like it that, when they drop the shows, they drop, the whole season at one time.
Yeah.
So you can actually see the flow of the movie. If it was a movie, you get more, because nobody wants to go to a 4-hour movie because it's just boring. But you can see.
But you'll watch 6 episodes in one day.
But
you can also get up and walk around and do things in between.
Yeah, I mean, because like Ozarks and what was the other one? Stranger Things, and. And then the cowboy movie. What was the name of that one? Where all the women are left in a town. I forget.
Magnificent Seven.
No, it was kind of like the Magnificent Seven, but it's a true story where that the men go into a mine and the mine collapses, it kills all the men, and all there's left in the city is the are the women to defend themselves, and the kids and the men, and then the mining people come and try to take over the county, and the women defend themselves. So it's but it was a good show. I mean, it developed the characters and gave you again, it was a kind of a happy ending, but Ozarks and Stranger Things are kind of happy endings, but they're also kind of like they leave the hook out there for
I don't want to say Ozark's happy.
well,
He's optimistic.
I didn't die. Wait till next season.
what was the name of what was the series on AMC with Bryan Cranston?
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I mean, no, there wasn't any good characters there either. So, I mean, there are lots of good characters there.
I like Walter's character just fine. I thought his wife was a complete bitch the entire series. She just exuded bitch from like episode 1, and I don't know what it was, and she just lived up to it in spades. I mean, I didn't even see the end of the shows. I'm pretty sure she still was.
You didn't watch the end of it?
I didn't really have access to the last episodes until like a year or so ago, and I just never watched them. So.
Yeah, because I say that's probably the best ending of a TV show ever.
Yeah, I think I've actually seen what the ending is, but at the same time, it's like I like Jesse and Walter just fine. I thought they were just kind of like bungling drug dealers for like half the series, and then after that, like Walter kind of took like a dark fucking turn, but like he still wasn't like a horrible person, like somebody I would be like, yeah, he's redeemable. It's not like he just like went into
Grandpa
went into a room and like killed a fuck ton of people and walked out and like went, who wants
No,
popcorn?
he paid other people to do that, but
Yeah.
or he suffocated, or he watched Jesse's girlfriend suffocate on vomit.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that. Is that the last season?
No, it's the second season.
Oh, I guess I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I guess
But
there's a lot of shit I forgot about good old white guy Walter not doing, even though he did.
But again, it's like a lot of these shows are like 24. When it was on, but it seemed like it took. The show just seemed like it lasted for 5 or 6 years, and at the end of the show it was what, 5 months long, or how many months or how long was the show for? The actual timeline in the show.
Oh yeah, the timeline for 24 is really crazy because it's a whole season's one day. So
How could that amount of shit happen in that short time span?
Breaking Bad was a similar thing, right? Towards the end.
yeah, it was actually Breaking Bad. The actual timeline was 3.5 years, I think, in Showtime.
yeah.
What it was. Walking Dead's crazy too. It's like how much time's passed in this show? 3 years or something. It's something crazy like that. 4 years. It's been going on almost a decade.
When I wonder, has anybody watched The Last Man on Earth? At least like the last couple seasons.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen the first 3 seasons. I haven't seen the latest one though.
But they actually like bring up valid points in there where it's like like Walking Dead and all its popularity hasn't touched upon it at all. Where it's like, I think there's one episode it's in the second or third season where Phil, the black guy Phil, brings up is like, we can't fucking drive anywhere anymore. All the gas is fucking expired. Like, it's not good anymore. You can't use it in your cars. The engines won't fucking work. And then after that episode, every episode they're still driving around everywhere. The gas is still good. Everything, like the food's still edible, and it's like 4-year-old fucking tortillas in a bag and shit, and like all this stuff's still perfectly workable, even though it's been 4 or 5 years since the last.
Well, it's a comedy, but
no,
but occasionally they do introduce like things where it's like real world concepts and like, oh fuck, they actually have to deal with real world things.
No, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they had that levity for like one fucking episode where it's like, oh yeah, we can't live this way anymore, and then it's like they totally fucking forgot it after that, and everybody just keeps going on about their businesses.
Well, then like season 3, it's like, oh, nuclear reactors melted down, and now there's just nuclear. Now there's just just fallout from nuclear reactors just melting down, so they actually have to like get on a boat and get out of there and try to get out of the way of the fallout.
Yeah, that's one thing the apocalypse always misses is like, yeah, guys, went in there and scrammed the reactors, and maybe they even did. But yeah, once those cooling pools drain out and all those rods start burning off, oh, you're gonna have a huge fucking problem on your hand. They've never addressed that in The Walking Dead, which is weird because like they still have like semi infrastructure there for some reason. It's like no, none of this shit would work.
Yeah, I know, but they've never really mentioned nuclear power plants at all. So it's like it's some universe where nobody's ever heard of zombies before, and also nuclear power doesn't exist. So I don't know. This is weird.
Yeah, Last Man on Earth is like that show's gonna have to end weird because either everybody has to die or it all has to be a dream. There's gonna be a sudden island where nobody died. That's the only way this show is.
Well, why is he? I've never watched it. Why is he the last man on Earth? What happened to everyone?
Well, there's still people alive, but it starts out he goes around all of America and finds nobody, and everybody has died from some sort of virus.
Okay. They got like 300 million corpses around.
Yes. They
Okay.
actually do address that at some point, sort of.
Oh, okay.
There's like football stadiums just with piles of bodies.
Oh, so this didn't happen like in a course of a night. This went on.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was a slow collapse. Although, when he goes around the United States in the first season, there are no bodies anywhere.
Probably budget/rating thing.
And he does stuff where he just like steals shit from like museums and things because nobody's around. So he just has like a Tyrannosaurus skull from like a natural history museum and shit like that. He's got like a baby pool full of whiskey and he's just sitting there drinking it. And...
Oh, that's a beautiful idea.
There's weird stuff he just does with like cars and weapons and things because like nobody's around. He's just like has like a cart full of shit and he just rams a car into it and blows it up. It's weird shit like that. It's very funny.
He's trying to figure out how to grow his food, and he doesn't know how to grow food.
Oh, and there's no plumbing in the house, so he just like has a diving board into a pool, and he just like sits on the diving board. He cut a hole in it. And he just shits into the pool.
So no one dies of cholera or anything.
He's the only guy. He's the only man on Earth.
Yeah.
And then he meets a woman, and now they have 6 people on it or 7 people.
Yeah, there's a couple people have died, and yeah, there's like 6
there's
people.
always like you add 1 or 2 and then take away 2 or 3, and then there's kind of like 3 or 4 main titular ones, and then there's a revolving cast of 2 or 3 around them.
But at night they don't have any power, right? So they don't have any entertainment either, do they?
That was in the 3rd season, like in California, because they're living in some house that has solar panels. So yeah, they have.
Okay. So that's how they power the trains.
Because they go to California and find these houses that like have solar power and energy and stuff like that because they have a refrigerator that works throughout the day. So that helped them with things, but there's no meat anymore, so they're so. So where they found a cow, and that was like a big thing. Like now they have milk, and if it dies, then they have steaks or something like that.
But yeah, it's a very strange. I mean, I can't take too much of it at one time. I can go watch it, and then oh god, this is getting. There's
a guy who there's a guy that they thought they kept killing, and he ends up keep being alive. And finally they got to a point where he gets like shot in the head, and so he cuts his head off, and he puts his body on one Sea-Doo and puts his head on the other Sea-Doo. It's like, all right, he'll never live, and he just sends the Sea-Doos off in the ocean, and they just collide. Because there's nothing driving it, they end up like turning in the same direction, collide, and blow up. It's like, well, that's the end.
Yeah, the only thing like that The Walking Dead's ever how would you say it? They've ever acknowledged, besides the fact that it's just a decayed world, is they were running out of bullets. Like they finally oh, we got to make more bullets. There's just not enough bullets. So they did address that, but that's about the only thing I've seen.
Yeah, I'd hate to be the one collecting brass. around that time. Like, don't get bit by zombies. Go find all the brass on the ground over there, and then we're gonna go find all the gunpowder.
Let's do all these reloads.
Yeah, don't double charge that. And you can shoot guns forever, by the way. Firing pins never break. Barrels never. I mean, I've broke the firing pin on a gun, and I don't even shoot them that much. So nobody gets oral infections, which is your #1 killer in a time before. That's the thing about time travel. You'd never want to deal with the.
Oh, you have oral infections. It's just the zombie virus.
Well, yeah.
But, yeah,
But also, they're always zombies. But it takes a zombie bite to make them a zombie.
Or they just die.
Yeah.
Because it's inside them whenever they die.
Yeah.
Just if they get bitten by it, it just accelerates the process. Or I don't know. I mean, Walking
They
Dead's
haven't
not
delved into that, so.
Walking Dead's not big on answers. It's big on the same conflict over and over and over again. That's why I sort of tapped out. It's like, oh, I've seen this before.
Yeah, and I keep watching it. Mostly just when it comes
There's
out.
nothing wrong with it. It's just, well, I've seen this already. It's kind of getting like Lost. It's like, oh, another new mystery. Oh, more new mystery. Wait, a mystery that cancels out the other mystery. Who the fuck are these people? Why did they get mysterious?
Wait,
Whoever
they're all
I-
dead and they're on a plane and they're going to heaven? This is shit.
Not film. Who cares?
I think is it best The Walking Dead TV show, has 2-3 seasons left in it.
I mean, it'll keep going. It's AMC's #1 show. So.
No, I know, but at the same time, you can only play it out so long because ratings are declining again. And
Yeah, I mean,
everything
it's
else
an expensive show, so yeah, I'll probably eventually shut it down because it's not making money. But
because it's also catching up to the comic book too.
yeah,
Before it was.
well, it doesn't
always-
stop any because Game of Thrones, it did its best season without any George R. Martin's books.
Yeah, no.
He just gave him an outline and said, you know how to do this, which is how George R. Martin does things.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's even talked about him coming out with his book still yet. So I don't know if he's.
Well, he's got another TV series coming out. It's based on old material, but he's doing some of the screenwriting for it. Night
Oh.
Flyers is coming out.
I found out why. Well, I didn't read all the article; I just saw the headline, and it was like, okay, that explains things. Why Amazon's spending $1 billion for
Lord
Lord of the Rings?
Why is that?
Well, apparently they're just like guaranteeing like 6 seasons off the bat, and that's just like the entire budget for 6 seasons.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, but that doesn't. The thing that was shocking about the Amazon was what they paid for the rights to make that.
Yeah.
They paid almost $1 billion just for the rights to make that without paying one actor or shooting one scene. It was the rights to that were crazy, but I guess it's because the Tolkien family knows what that's worth, and they don't like that perpetual rights thing, so you had to give them a lot of money because that's there's richer than the royal family. It's like all the writers over there and the people that own property. Like J.K. Rowling has more money than the Queen of England. I like her book contract though. The original, the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the first book. You know what she got off the sale of every book? 8%, because that was her first book deal, her first big one.
Yeah.
So they fucked her. He's like, yeah, you get 8%, which was still a gargantuan amount of money by the time it was done.
Yeah.
But I guess the next book she got like Stephen King. Yeah, we get 30% plus whatever we make off the selling the rights to the movie, and it's like, wow, that's ruthless.
Yeah, because now she's doing all like the prequel Harry Potter stuff now, like all the just the history, basically. I think of.
Yeah, I never got into that.
What's the school's name again? I can't remember.
Hogwarts?
Yeah.
Wimbledon? Oh, Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never got into that at all. I don't know why. I just
I
never.
watched some of the movies and stuff, but yeah, I've never got into the books or anything. So.
I don't think I've ever sat down and watched a Harry Potter movie.
I've seen. I don't think I've seen them all except for like the last 3. There's one that's done by the guy who did Children of Men, which that's my favorite one because it's probably the weirdest and darkest one.
Alonso Cuarón or whatever.
Yeah.
What's he doing now? Because he only did Gravity.
He's got some He's got something. It seemed like a very him post, dire movie kind of thing.
Well, Children of Men's one of my top 10 favorite movies.
Yeah.
I remember I watched that in the theater alone. I heard of this movie. I read something about it. I was like, that sounds interesting. That's based off that book. I remember it was a real dreary, kind of sad book. Very different from the movie. It was a P.D. James book called Children of Men. And I was like, well, I wonder what the movie is. Ah, fuck it. I'm going to go watch it. It was kind of like when I saw Fight Club. Like, I don't know anything about this. I'm just going to go watch it. I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. Now, Fight Club, it was a full house. But, yeah, Children of Men, I think it was me and 2 other people. And, like, this is an amazing movie. This is going to really take off. I'd never fucking heard of it again. But everyone knows about it now. They always talk about it. Because there's 2 things. It's like, they love the soundtrack and the way it looks, and they love the fact that it's like Clive Owen can act.
He's not the guy in those weird BMW short movies on the internet.
Yeah, he can actually act.
Oh, he did TV and shit like that before, but yeah, his breakthrough to America was like those BMW commercials, and like he was in other TV commercials before he ever did anything. Like
Children of Men wasn't his breakout here.
it was probably his breakout here, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people talk about that movie. It comes up a lot in things I listen to.
Yeah.
Mostly tape recordings of himself talking about the one time he had to go see Children of Men.
Yeah. It's my voice here, interestingly enough.
Everyone has their story when they went to see Children of Men. Like, sat in a theater by myself.
I see Children of Men all the time. That guy over there. That woman on the park bench. Children of Men. Okay.
There's been a couple movies that have been solo. I think the most striking one was Sunshine, the Danny Boyle movie. It is because there was like 30 people in there when I started. Almost everyone walked out but me. And like early into the movie, they walked out. It's like, what?
Really?
What's there mean about this movie so much?
That's like
It's
the
not
better
great,
part of, that's the better
but
part of the movie.
I mean, the last half of the movie is terrible, but
Yeah, the build up is awesome.
yeah.
If they could take that and how could they do that? Yeah, that's another Event Horizon. It's like, oh, this build up's great. Oh wow, this is where they're going.
Multiple things do that. Like Event Horizon, Sunshine, and Prometheus is like, we have the smartest people in the world to solve this problem, and it turns into a fucking horror movie at the end that nobody can solve.
People doing crazy, unlikely things, stupid things.
The only like in Sunshine though is like Chris Evans' character, he should have died like 8 times because he's smart and an engineer. He figures out how to stay alive.
Yeah.
He's the only character that did that. Everyone was just waiting to kill themselves.
Yeah, it was kind of weird with him. He finally died trying to save the computer, right?
Yeah, he just like freezes to death when he's like inside the computer cooling system or whatever.
Yeah. But that was interesting. But yeah, I remember a lot of people walked out of that one.
What was the guy who wrote that movie? He has a movie that came out recently, right?
I don't know.
I'll have to look it up.
I'm still waiting for that Black Hole reboot.
Oh yeah, who's doing that?
One of the people from Sunshine was attached to it, but that was like 4 years ago, and Disney's trying to forget that one.
Isn't the Dark Crystal still getting remade?
I don't know. Yeah, why not? It's claymation it. Actually, the Dark Crystal wasn't bad, but it was definitely of its time.
I've never seen that. What's the other one that was like that? There's Dark Crystal and there's another. Which one had David Bowie? Labyrinth, that's it.
Labyrinth. Labyrinth was a cool movie.
Doesn't really hold up either, but yeah.
No, fuck no. It's not.
I mean,
Oh yeah, Alex.
I've tried watching Dark Crystal recently again. Same thing with Labyrinth, and it's like, yeah, I love these movies when I was a kid, and when I was younger, I don't really love them that much now.
What's his name? Alex Prius or something?
What, the Sunshine guy?
Yeah.
The guy, no, it's Alex Garland. He did
Oh,
Annihilation.
Garland. Okay, yeah.
That was the thing he did.
Maybe he's doing the Black Hole reboot. Somehow I doubt that. Though.
No. Well, Danny Boyle's doing something. He's like attached to like 5 different things right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's actually attached, or people just like to throw his name on shit. It's like, wouldn't it be good if Danny Boyle did everything? It's like, oh, kind of.
From the director of Millions and Children. Millions and Sunshine comes
Because you can't have the
28 Days Later was his other one.
you can't have the guy who did the well, in Trainspotting.
Yeah, Trainspotting.
But you can't
That's
have
That's a movie I try to forget because it's like I think that's the bleakest Danny Boyle movie. That's worse than 28 Days Later.
I think Trainspotting is amazing. It's like a fucking great commentary and just
It is, but it's so it's like that's all real. That's the thing. It's like, oh, there's lots of people really like that.
he didn't do this actual sequel though, did he?
yeah, he did the sequel.
Okay.
I
I was
haven't
gonna say
seen
because
it.
that movie was fine. I was just more disappointed, I guess, because I guess I expected more out.
Oh, for a movie that doesn't deserve a sequel.
Yeah, I know. For a movie that didn't really need or deserve one, yes, I was disappointed. Because I literally went when I was in Minneapolis. That's where I went to go see it. Because no, it's not gonna fucking play anywhere near here.
Oh yeah, he did that Steve Jobs movie.
Fuck Steve Jobs.
Which one? The one with
Fassbender.
Fassbender? Yeah.
Yeah, that was boring as shit.
Yeah, there's some untitled project and the Bond 25. That's what he's attached. It's his IMDb. He says right now.
Who's gonna be the next James Bond?
Daniel
Oh.
Craig.
Danny Craig gonna do it again?
Yeah, do you mean after that or the next movie? It'll probably be Daniel Craig
I
for
was
the.
gonna say it's like Daniel Craig. That's who he's gonna be.
Yeah, I think it'll be Daniel Craig for. It'll probably be his last one.
That's what he keeps saying. But
Yeah,
they always
yeah,
offer
he
more
said that
money
probably since
since like
since the second one, but that was because that was terrible.
Keep
Well,
saying
he'll
it's
keep
gonna-
saying that until they hand him that contract. He won't make 20.
I don't want to do this. Here's $30 million. I don't want to do this. Where do I sign?
He keeps
I'm
saying
gonna
it's
phone
because
this one in.
injuries and shit like that.
Oh yeah. I doubt it.
I still want to
Just
see.
get Jason Statham in there.
I still want to see Idris Elba do the next 007.
Yeah, Jason Statham would be kind of like a Cockney, like James Bond. That'd be kind of interesting, maybe.
Just you have him do a bunch of B movie shit like fuck. Who was the second one? Technically the third Bond. Ronald Moore. Or not Ronald Moore. Something Moore. What's his name?
Roger Moore.
Roger Moore. There we go.
Yeah, he didn't do really anything good outside of James Bond. Did a lot of weird movies.
Oh come on, Boat Trip was wonderful.
I actually hear that's a good movie.
No, it is actually a good movie. It's just like he was a good gay Royal Marine in that movie.
And then who was the other guy? He's had a lot of success, actually. The guy who played Remington Steele.
Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, he's done a lot of. He's had a lot of success after post James Bond.
Yeah,
I mean, not
he's-
big stuff, but he's in a lot of things.
Oh well, Mamma Mia was made a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
There's a sequel, God forbid.
Yeah, I guess that was a movie. Yeah, I'd never see that movie, so I guess I'd forget he was in a very
don't
successful movie.
The only one I watched where people sing was Les Miserables, and that's because it was just
Well,
cool.
get ready for the lure.
Yeah, I'm
It's a
into.
musical.
I love movies where people sing.
Well, don't worry, they sing mostly in Polish this one. So
Yeah, so I'm really gonna connect. It should be
Everybody loves the pole. Come on.
Well, guys, it's been 2 hours.
all right.
Up against our time wall. So this has been a great episode. Glad everyone could make it. It's been very entertaining. So,
Except for John.
no, John's been
No, I
entertaining.
know. It just looks like your eyes are closed in our cameras.
No, he's constant, just thinking about what to say next.
Oh, these idiots! They won't stop talking.
This is mindless youth culture these guys are talking about. All right. Well, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew.
And John.
Goodbye, America.